Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge cycling podcast for Paris-Nice Stage 1. This show is presented, as always, by our show partner, Zwift. Here with Benji for one of the craziest finishes I've ever seen, and which is good, because Paris-Nice, a bit of a snooze last year, except for Roglic crashing. He's back. We have a stacked start list. The Yates brothers, Roglic, McNulty, Almeida, both looking good. Haig, Vlasov, Quintana, Yoni Zagira. Big GC start list, stronger than Tirreno on average. The sprinter field, Jakobsen, Philipsen, Wout van Aert. I see Groenewegen. It's a stacked sprint start list as well. Sam Bennett, Brian Cockart. And this first stage was perfectly designed. We have exposed crosswind potential sections. Maybe the wind wouldn't be strong enough from Mont-la-Ville to Mont-la-Ville. They have a bit of a local circuit, 160 Ks, and they finish with a hilly circuit. They have a 1,200 meter, 6.5% Côte de Breuil Bois Robert climb. It crests 6K from the finish, and it was Operation Would Philipsen and Jakobsen get dropped by Bahrain for Colbrelli and Jumbo for Van Aert? And that was why it was a great design. And the crosswinds, Benji, talk to me about them. Was it the wind, or was it the teams not really committing to it that meant there was no splits today?
It was a combination of the two, I'd say. We went to that crosswind section with three riders in front. Frison, Goujar, and Fedorov, a break that formed with like 50K to go. But once we got there, we noticed that the peloton was slightly nervous. They know there's a crosswind section coming, something's about to go down, but we see, unlike what we usually see when it comes to the crosswinds, that Quickstep is not well represented at the front. They've got a few riders, Jakobsen kind of with like one or two teammates max at that point in the race, and this is with like between like 30 and 20K to go that we're starting to notice that there's limited Quickstep riders. And the most notable team at the front was Jumbo, who was settling there with, I think, 5 riders in a row, already on the right side of the road, ready to do something. And it seemed like they were trying to do something. Rohan Dennis, who I usually could recognize in an Ineos shirt, but at Jumbo, it's so difficult to realize that he's at Jumbo. It's something that's unsettling about it. But hey, they were keeping the team at the front and so forth. And at a certain point, they were in that crosswind section, but it was split in two parts. A smaller crosswind section, a portion between houses, and then a bigger crosswind section. The initial crosswind section, okay, fake news, let's be honest about it. There's no way crosswinds can form in that, but it thinned out the peloton a bit because it wasn't necessarily one team that went all out on that section. Mike Teunissen went to the front towards the end of that, though, and tried to line it out a bit, and that worked. But it was really on the second part of the crosswinds where it really started being a thin line of a peloton, a very long, stretched out peloton. And as a consequence, all these riders like Quintana was trying to move up on the right side of the road quite quickly to make sure he's up there if splits happen, if splits occur, because only one rider needs to drop a wheel and a gap opens up and you've got an echelon happening. But those gaps did not open up, and that's what's intriguing about this, because they're going towards a climb with a very long, stretched-out peloton, and I'm going to throw it to you for responding why that matters.
Well, it seems obvious, but you forget, and it saw it with Neves in Gran Camino the other week. If you start the climb 150 meters behind the front of the peloton, you have to do the climb significantly quicker just to finish in the same time. And that's what Jumbo-Visma did so brilliantly. They've brought an incredibly strong, balanced team, maybe a little bit light on climbing, but the rouleurs here, listen, they know they can. Roglic doesn't need that much help on Turini if he's safe and crash-free by the base of Turini. They want to bring him there safely. And with Laporte, Teunissen, Van Aert, and Van Hooijdonk and Dennis, that is just a ridiculous squad for the hills and flats and wind in Paris-Nice. And they had 3-4 riders into the base of that climb. Yates was deep in the group. Stibar, their only quick-stepper, really in the top 6 or 7 wheels. McNulty and Almeida couldn't see them anywhere. And Nathan Van Hooijdonk just spanked it at the base of this 1,200-meter climb. Like full cobbled classic style lead out, like they're launching on the Moor or something. Then this is after Turnison had done an incredible job keeping them front. Then it's Laporte, the guy who is so punchy and in such good shape. He nearly won Kerner from a break. He nearly won stage 6 of Paris-Nice last year up a 2K 6% climb against Roglic. He hits it, and we're seeing gaps. I'm like, where's Freyler? Hayter was dropped before. Colbrelli was dropped before. Don't know what's going on with him. Danny Martinez and Yates are trying to close it in the win themselves. I'm like, where's Dylan Van Baarle? And we suddenly see there's 3 Jumbo riders when Van Aert takes over, literally going away on the climb with one quick stepper on their wheel. I don't know who lost the wheel. Stieber?
Yep.
I don't know who lost the wheel, but with and at that point, I don't even think Wout van Aert committed so quickly. I think the plan was to drop Jakobsen and Philipsen, Benji. Yeah. I don't think the plan was to ride away.
I think so as well. Like, perhaps there was a plan where someone could attack if a smaller group forms, but once you notice that you're 3 riders with 1 rider like Stieber, you're like, we might as well just keep going. Worst case scenario, we're sprinting against Stieber, and on paper, 2 of the 3 riders that we have in that group beat Stieber in a sprint. So it's worth keeping up the tempo. And they gradually started realizing that they were actually going to get away with this. And we noticed that the gap towards us, the second part, which is basically the 5th rider in the race at that point, was already quite significant. And from a helicopter shot, we slowly started seeing Jakobsen fall through that second group as well. And at the front, we saw that Stieber was also dropping from the 3 Jumbo riders, from Laporte, Wout, and Primoz Roglic. And when that happens, it's done deal. Team time trial. Jumbo was complaining that there's no team time trials in Grand Tours. They're making them themselves.
I know. And before we get into maybe what was going on behind, a word from our show partners, Zwift, the online cycling platform that makes training fun. Tour of Watopia starts next week. 5 stages of riding with 5 new routes, unlocks, and double XP, so your efforts help you level up twice as quickly. Perhaps with Jumbo's performance today, I don't need to be getting to 6.5 watts per kilo FTP to stop Pogačar, like I said yesterday. But anyway, I'll still be getting on Zwift after this. Thanks to Zwift, as always, for supporting the podcast. But yeah, situation, Stieber dropped, 3 Jumbo riders clear, 6K flat run in, and Yates got no one. And that's when we knew it was done, because it's like a full changing of the guard. And it's been a transition where Ineos dominated the 20 teens, and maybe I'm overreacting. I probably am, because there's a lot of COVID around. There's a lot of sickness around. But to see no Ineos domestiques on the front pacing for Yates was just eye-opening. And I just didn't expect it, or Colbrelli not being there. And eventually, Laporte couldn't pull. He was redlined. And this reminded me, Benji, of almost stage 7 of the Tour 2020, where I'm like, pull Roglic, you're a truck, like we saw on Covadonga. And Roglic, when he starts pulling, it makes all the difference, because he's going for GC now. Anyway, those 3 pull. What do you think they should do, Benji? You got Roglic maximum bonus seconds. The stage, they were originally going for Van Aert, but Laporte, they've just signed. They want him to be a domestique in the classics, and he's never won a World Tour race. What did you think Jumbo would or should do?
I think that there's multiple pathways that they can do. Yes, if this race matters a lot for the team and for Roglic to win it, then you go for the bonus seconds. But let's be honest, winning Paris-Nice, yeah, it's great, but it's not the end of the world for Roglic if it doesn't happen. So as a consequence, I think that gifting it to someone would be reasonable, knowing that you're gifting it to a rider that, as a consequence, is your domestique for the rest of your bloody lives at this point. Because, for example, gifting it to Wout didn't really make sense to me. Like, Wout was out of the picture for the victory 100%. So it was either bonus seconds for Roglic or gifting it to Laporte, because that's how you get your domestiques to ride for you when it really matters. And therefore, I think in Paris-Nice, they made the right choice, and that choice is
Christophe Laporte takes his first World Tour win ahead of Roglic, with Roglic having taken away, justifiably, stage 6 from him in Paris-Nice last year. Turns full circle. And it's funny, like, full leadership at Cofidis, goes to Jumbo as a domestique, and he gets his first World Tour stage win in his first World Tour race for them, I think.
Yeah.
Because Koerner's not World Tour. I can't remember if he did Omloop or not. So
Nope.
incredible for him. And the thing is, if Roglic doesn't crash out, he should walk this Paris-Nice. So it doesn't matter if the lead is 5 minutes or 5 minutes 4 seconds or 1 minute 1 minute 4 seconds. It's whether he crashes out for me already, because Jumbo just look ridiculous. And I've actually never seen anything like this, Benji, because 1994 I wasn't alive. No, I was alive, but I was one, so I wasn't yet, conscious. I was about the same maturity
You're still
level.
not, but
exactly, still kind of half asleep. But have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, it reminds me of that Tour de France stage where Froome and Sagan rode away towards the end of the stage. Kind of that same vibe. It's not the same kind of thing, but it's different teams. But it's the same kind of thing where it's a few riders that are riding away from a peloton in that sense. This time it was the peloton actually being completely done, though. But a lesson learned for Gino Mader today: if you want to win a Paris-Nice stage and Roglic in the race, go to Jumbo-Visma at the end of the season.
Here's the top 10. Laporte first, Roglic second, Van Aert third, then Latour, Pedersen, Girmay actually came top 10, sixth, then Garcia, Cortina, Wright, Philipsen, Seneschal. Jakobsen got properly dropped from that group. Philipsen made that sort of second group. In terms of GC riders that lost time today, Haig was in that group on 22 seconds. So was McNulty. I'm looking for Almeida. He was there. So was Quintana, Yates. So all the main GC guys I can see there, including Vlasov. Maybe there's some other ones that have missed it. Bennett was on 2 minutes. So he got spat. Jay Vine lost 2 minutes with Van Hooijdonk and Turnison. And yeah, it was just all positioning into that final climb. In terms of GC, Roglic already has a 28-second lead on everybody on GC. We have in Paris-Nice a TT on stage 4. It's a rolly TT, 13 Ks. Roglic going to be putting more time into people. We do have tricky stages to come. There's always tricky stages before we get to the sun in the south. But the main climb, we didn't end up doing a preview for this. The main mountaintop finish stage is stage 7 to Col de Torini, 156 Ks. It's 15 Ks, 7%, perfect Roglic climb. So, yeah, it's Paris-Nice already looks over, frankly. And I think there'll be a lot of questions from Ineos and other teams. How did we lose 30 seconds on this stage? It's just, I reckon they'll be shocked.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it's not like there's no competition here. That's the biggest thing. Like,
it's a good start
It's not
list.
easy to ride away with 3 riders, including Laporte, on the last climb, knowing the start list that is here. So I think the key point in this race was stretching out the peloton before getting to the hill, causing splits to happen and it making harder for other people to try and catch them. And I was kind of surprised that Quintana was a bit too far behind in that line and therefore wasn't able to bridge up again on the climb and so forth. But hey, that's what happened here. When it comes to the upcoming stage, though, have you mentioned the parkour yet?
No, I have not. Stage 2, it's a flat stage. I'm trying to look. It's furthest south from Paris, just south of Versailles to Orléans, 160 Ks. This should be a sprint. There's an uphill little drag to the finish. The only way this doesn't finish in a big bunch sprint is crosswinds, which, like, I don't think Ineos can try on the crosswinds or Arkea Benji. Like, how are they going to drop Turnison, Van Hooijdonk, Laporte, Van Aert, and Roglic in the crosswinds? Do they at least try and hope Roglic... Because you saw something with Roglic today. Like, he still... Those rouleurs are great, but he doesn't keep their wheel all the time.
Yeah. I don't think it will be super easy to do that here. And, like... Yeah, they have riders that can do well in crosswinds, like that Rowan van Baarle, but I just don't really see it at this point. And the competition they have is also good at crosswinds, so I don't think it will be necessarily effective on this one. And then I look at other teams, and Quickstep's not actually here with a shit team. They've got next to Jacobsen, Lampard, Merck, Seneschal, Stibar, and those riders could do that stuff. But on the other hand, why would they do that if they can just get it to a sprint and have a proper lead out squad there for Jacobsen?
Exactly.
Because the less riders Jakobsen has, I'd argue the less chance he has of winning.
I was surprised, and I still will be. We have punchy guys who got dropped on that climb today. Coquard, Schachmann, and co. Even Søren Kragh. We do have to remember, and the main word of caution I would have in overreacting to this result is there is so much sickness and COVID that has been affecting the peloton the last 2 weeks. You saw guys pulling out of Strada the night before. There's gastro going around. There's COVID everywhere, it seems. Or guys getting it and pulling out of races. And that affects preparation. It's not like, oh, I got COVID this week. The week before, I couldn't do that race. But we'll see him in the race in 2 weeks, and he'll carry that peak. He's had to have time off the bike. He's probably had to go get a heart check or something. He's missed out on training. And that's why that's the one word of caution I would have for my own self in not overreacting to these results. But who have you got for tomorrow, Benji? I think Lefebvre's going to be on the phone, and I think Jakobsen's taking it.
Yeah, I think the obvious names are Jakobsen, Wout van Aert, Mess Pedersen for the sprint and so forth, but I'm going to go for a complete outsider. I think he's still an outsider at least. Benyam Girmay was second in the bunch sprint behind. Yes, the hills helped him getting that result, but I want to see an outsider win, and therefore Girmay is my name. No, not mine, but the winner's name tomorrow.
And he made it over the climb. Even all about positioning today, and I'll have to go back and look at the footage. But yeah, I'm surprised. Like guys like him, he did well in the bunch sprint. But yeah, I'm still sticking with Jakobsen though. He's a burner right now, and it should be a flat finish. Otherwise, around the traps, we had the Gros de Prix Jean-Pierre Montserrat, and it's a 1-1 race. It had Alpecin, Lotto, RK, Intermarché, and Quickstep. I just want to mention it mainly because Arnaud Delis won again. And no word of a lie, this 19-year-old is pretty good. Second pro win already. Did you watch it? How dominant was it?
I watched the race, and there was a split with about, was it 20k to go or something, where a group got away and there were quite a few Lotto riders in there, and Lotto basically gave him a perfect lead out. And that perfect to the point where the riders in the wheel of the third Lotto rider, which was Arnaud Delis, was Van Lerberghe and Ethan Vernon. Van Lerberghe doing lead out for Ethan Vernon, and Van Lerberghe launched and Ethan Vernon just imploded in the wheel of those Lotto riders. So completely not working against the lead there. But quite surprising to me is that we've seen the Bond sprint very well this season so far, getting third in Samin, second here. Same story with Hofstetter, who is here for the points, let's be honest about it. Getting a second in Samin and now third in this race. He's definitely doing it for Arkea, just like Delis is doing it for Lotto at the moment. Do you think that Arnaud Delis can be a key to Lotto to make it relatively close in those points? And let's say with him, with Caleb Ewan, if he wins Milano San Remo, are they back in the game?
They need Arnaud Delis to score 1,000 points. They do. Not a point less. And he's already on 270 in the start of March, which is incredible. And the problem with their squad was they can't send Ewan to all these races, and they were relying heavily on him to step up, Arnaud Delis, and he's already doing it. Like even 10th at Le Semaine, maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, the problem is they only gained 5 points today on Arkea because Arkea had Hofstetter in third. He took 70, and who was somewhere in seventh, Grandin, who I've never heard of before.
He's decent this year.
Is he?
As domestique-wise, got like top 15 at Saudi Tour, which is not an amazing result, but it says you can ride a bike properly.
Yeah. So, yeah, they rely on Delis. Can he win a Shoulder Prize? If Ewan doesn't do it, what do you see?
Depends on the competition.
It's going to be a quick step down. It's going to be some better sprinters at Shoulder Prize, I think.
Delis wins Shoulder Prize. Hot take.
I think De Bont will go to the Tour this year for Alpecin. I think he'll be second last man. He didn't, from memory, go to the Tour last year. I don't know if he had a crash or something. He did the Giro. I think he'll do the Tour, and there'll be Ricard, De Bont, Thor Philipsen, and it will be an absurd last
And
two lead
Merlier
up.
and
Nah,
Van der Poel.
not sending him earlier. He's out.
Okay.
He's gone. Anyway, stay tuned for our coverage of both Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico, which starts tomorrow. It's Pogacar against Jonas at Tirreno. I haven't heard... Oh, and Evenepoel, sorry. And Alaphilippe and Cavendish are also there for Quick Step. I haven't heard how Pogacar's recovered from his crash in Strada and the huge effort, but the first stage, they're actually reversed. They're not doing the San Benedetto del Tronto TT. That's actually a road stage on stage 7. The first stage in Lido di Camaiore, which was a sprint last year won by Wout van Aert against Ewan, it's a flat TT. And so we'll be seeing Evenepoel, Ganna.
Yep.
Ganna, he's pretty good at these, but he's not the favourite. Evenepoel's the favourite. Do you agree on the betting?
Oh, it's so difficult, because Ganna can underperform at some point in the season, as we've seen a few times before. But I'm going to go for Evenepoel for this one. And I have no reason why.
Yeah, his Algarve TT was obscene. But GC-wise, there's no mountaintop finish. There is a hard 6K, 9.5% climb that they do twice on I think the 6th stage. Pogacar will still be the favourite. We'll be seeing what Jonas can do with Baumann and Kuss to help him in the mountains. Wouldn't be surprised to see Eduardo Affini in the top 3 of the TT tomorrow. The sprint field is a little light compared to Paris-Nice, but we have Ewan v Cav, so that's worth watching as well. So a big week of 2 of the most prestigious one-week stage races on the calendar, with pretty much everybody here at either of the 2 races out of the top guys in the world. So very happy to see that. What about Padun, Benji? You reckon he can top 3 the GC? I think he can. Nah.
It's a one-week race, but it's possible. I think it's possible. And next to that, when it comes to the sprints, I think Koy showed in the OE Tour that he can podium one, the sprint. And if they get it right with the squad, which I'm not sure necessarily he has much support there, then I would dare to say that he can again podium it, because winning without the lead out that he doesn't really have here is going to be difficult.
Yeah, but it should be a little bit easier to at least get into competitive position than UAE, if not necessarily winning. But we hope you enjoyed this recap. Doubleheader tomorrow, which we can't wait for. Busy week for us. Thanks to Zwift, as always, for supporting the show. No Tuesday night group ride. We're waiting till Milano San Remo. We'll do a watch along Zwift LRCP group ride then. More details to follow on our Twitter at Lanterne Rouge CP. Ciao.